everybody, welcome to Meeple Beach. Today we're going to be reviewing all of the Golf Pro player cards. 8 of them come in the game, and we're going to start with Freddie Flop. So he can remove a tree on the current tile, and it reduces his max fly to 3. So here we have a little, nice course set up. Let's say he hits his drive, and he ends up over here behind this tree. Now, when you land on a tile with a tree, you have to put the tree down, and you put the base horizontal facing the ball, so it's wider and harder to get around. So now, if he was to use the ability here, he can remove the tree, but he can only go 3 spaces, so 1, 2, 3. So he can't get to that next fairway area, so it might not be the best time in this course to use it. He probably would just chip out and then take his next shot. However, if his next shot, let's say, lands him here and he has to be behind the tree again, this is a great time to use the ability. He can remove the tree because he's going over it, all right? So he's using his flop ability, but it reduces his max fly to 3, but he can still get there. So this is a great, opportunity to use that flop and hopefully make your shot. So there's Freddie Flop, great ability. There's actually a pro rule that uses that as well. So if you're playing with the pro rule, you could play a flop shot without having to use the ability. But in the pro rule, you only can advance 1. The max fly is 1. So Freddie Flop still gives you an advantage. His max fly is 3. Hey TJ, welcome back. We're going through the Golf Pro player cards in Meeple Beach. Roger Rescue Club can use any finger on a playable hazard, but it's -1 to the max fly. So this is really cool. Let's say we have here Roger Rescue, and let's just say he hits into this dry grass here. So normally, from the dry grass, he'd have to use his non-dominant hand ring finger, which is an awkward shot. It's definitely one of the tougher shots right now. So he can use his ability and use any finger from a playable hazard, but his max fly is reduced by 1. So in this case, 1, 2, 3, 4. The best he could do is hit out to that sand. But it's still a little bit easier of a shot than the ring finger, although this is the golf. These are the pro tiles that are very difficult to control. Here's another example. Let's say he hit into the sand. Normally from the sand, it's left hand, or let's say he's here in this sand. It's left hand thumb, or non-dominant hand thumb, max fly 4, and from the beach sand, you also move it back 2 ball spaces when it lands. So now he can use any finger, and it reduces the max fly by 1. So 1, 2, 3. Instead of going 4, he can only hit it 3, but that's all he needs to hit it. So this would be a perfect place. He could use any finger and his max fly. So that's a much easier shot, obviously, than non-dominant hand thumb. So there is Roger Rescue Club. Really cool ability. Can use any finger on a playable hazard, reduce the max fly by 1. Hey guys, we're back talking about the Golf Pro player cards. This is Willie Wallstone. Willie has an awesome ability. If it hits, basically lands on a cliff or a rock, it bounces to the edge of an adjacent tile of the player's choice. So let's say he's driving here and he hits it and it lands on this rock, on this boulder. He can now bounce it to an adjacent tile of his choice, right on the edge, so he can bounce it over here. Now, let's say he didn't use the ability, he drove it nice, and now in the next shot, he goes all the way to this cliff. The cliffs are rocks, so it bounces again to an adjacent tile of his choice. That means he could put it right on the edge of the green. I mean, talk about an awesome ability, especially on a course like this. So, here is one that you want to look out for. Willie Wallstone, shot that lands in a cliff or a rock, bounces to the edge of an adjacent tile of the player's choice, including the green. So, awesome. Hey guys, here's Nautical Nicholas. He loves the beach. Place ball in water on the edge of the respective beach terrain, and next shot has a max fly of 2. So, he drives here and he lands in the water. He actually doesn't take a water penalty. He puts it on the edge of the beach and hits his next shot, but the max fly of only 2. But still, he's sitting here 1, so now he can kind of pitch out, hopefully, onto the green there, hitting 2 instead of 3. So obviously, on this Meeple Beach Oceanside course, being able to avoid a water penalty at least once is an awesome ability. Hey guys, we're back with the Golf Pro Player cards at Meeple Beach. We're with Brandon Brzezinski. He can increase the wind strength up to 2 ball spaces. This is an interesting player ability, very unique. Let's say, he hits his drive and he lands here behind the tree, and he had a light wind blowing in the right direction. So he moves it right 1 ball space, but he's still really going to be stuck behind the tree, and he's going to have not a very easy next shot. So he can increase the wind strength by 2. So same direction, he can go 1, 2, and now put himself in a very good position for the next shot. So really interesting ability, can increase the wind strength up to 2 ball spaces. Hey guys, here's Riley Richford. We're going through the Meeple Beach Pro Player cards. He can choose to move a ball that lands on a ridge, 0 spaces, 1 or 2 ball spaces, in the respective ridge direction instead of to the next tile. So it's a really powerful thing. He can control the ridge. Now, normally, there are a lot of ridges on, or you can choose to put ridges on the hole. This one, we don't have any, except there's usually a ridge on the hole. So let's just say he hit a great shot and he landed here. Normally, this would just roll right off and unfortunately right here into the water. So he has the ability to control it 0, 1, or 2. So he could just move it 1, and then on his next shot he's right there, or not move it at all. But basically it's the control on a ridge that's very unique. Riley Richford, so he can move it 0, 1, or 2 ball spaces from a ridge. So here's Maria Meadows, our lady golf pro here in Meeple Beach. She could use any finger, but it's still non-dominant hand and a +1 max fly when hitting out of the dry rough. So you're gonna get a lot of the dry rough in Meeple Beach. And if you hit here, normally you would only be able to use your ring finger on your non-dominant hand, and the max fly from here is 5. She could use any finger on the non-dominant hand. So it's still a non-dominant hand, but now you can use your index finger or whatever you're more comfortable with. And it also increases the max fly by 1. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I could go 6 now, which, just is a little less pressure on coming up short. So that's a, decent shot there, depending on the wind. I may be stuck behind the tree. But, out of the dry rough, it's usually non-dominant hand ring finger, which is very awkward, very tough. Maria Meadows makes it a little bit easier and also increases your max fly. Hey guys, last but not least is Sergio Sandario. A shot out of the beach ignores the backward moving penalty and instead can move the ball 1 space forward. So this is an interesting, ability, obviously unique to Meeple Beach. Normally when you're in the sand on Meeple Beach, it's still non-dominant hand thumb, but when the ball lands, you have to move it back 2 spaces. So he can ignore that backwards movement and move it forward. So if he's on the beach here, he's still gonna use his non-dominant hand thumb, but when it lands, let's just say it landed there, instead of moving it back 2 spaces because of the beach penalty, he can actually move it forward 1. So he doesn't have to move it forward 1. Let's just say if he was here, he wouldn't want to move it forward 1 onto the ridge, but he could still ignore the backward 2 spaces. That could also, if it was here, put you in trouble behind the tree. So really cool ability, very unique like the rest of them. Sergio Sandario, a shot on the beach, out of the beach sand, ignores the backwards movement penalty and instead can move the ball 1 space.